Well, hello everyone, it's International Master Andrew Martin here once again, reporting for the British Chess Magazine, and my game of the month for April 2012 comes from the European Individual Championship, and it's between Francisco Vallejo Pons and Pons-Nabaty, who is an unknown quantity to me, but his grade is 2559, which makes him an extremely formidable player. And this game was played on the 23rd of March 2012. And it is quite a remarkable little miniature. You will never be able to guess the subsequent course of this game from the opening, as with d takes c4, Nabaty takes us into the relatively tranquil waters of the Queen's Gambit accepted. Vallejo plays e3, Black plays the prescribed e5. One of the main reasons White tends to play knight f3 is to prevent Black from making this freeing break. So Black thinks to himself, if I've got the opportunity, I'm going to take it. But of course this does, after bishop takes c4, allow the white bishop a rather nice diagonal down there towards attacking f7. So Black's got to be a little bit careful in this position that he doesn't actually go under to a quick attack against f7. It's a very open type of game. Nevertheless, Nabaty plays e takes d4, and Vallejo Pons takes back with the pawn, and Black plays his bishop out to d6. In open positions such as this one, pointed development is the order of the day, and accurate development too. One small misplacement of a piece can mean a major disadvantage in a position like this. Well, both sides seem to shape up to get castled. White plays knight f3, and Black plays knight f6. And now a slightly unusual move here, queen to e2 check. Just when you would be expecting White to castle in this position, instead he plays queen e2 check, a slightly disruptive move. And thinking nothing of this move, Black interposes with the queen. Well, clearly Vallejo Pons wanted to play a queenless type of position. He takes the queens off. And now a slightly surprising move, king takes e7, which, although the queens are off, is a very bold move, I would say, because the e-file's open. White's pieces can come out very quickly. There are pins on with bishop g5, etc. It's a rather unusual choice in this situation. Now, just dropping back and to show you the point of Vallejo Pons' move, if Black takes back with the bishop here, both sides castle. White plays knight c3, Black plays knight bd7, and now White goes rook e1 with a small edge. And I presume this is the type of position that Vallejo Pons wanted to go for. For instance, with something like bishop d6, knight b5, White still got a slight advantage in this position, but only slight. Now, going back to Nabaty's move, I mean, clearly the guy was obviously aware of this variation because in the World Blitz Championship 2008, Chikaev had beat Morozevich in that very same line. So he takes with the king. All the same, after castles, I now start to like White's position, who has plenty of attacking chances against the Black king. So now comes bishop e6. Alright, well that has a twofold point to it. Firstly, Black's covering the e-file, for instance against moves like rook e1. And secondly, he's stopping White from playing knight g5, which, for instance, if Black played rook e8, then knight g5 would actually be not an easy move to meet. So bishop e6, rook e1, and now Black gets out of the pin with king to d7. Knight e5 check. I did mention that pointed development was the order of the day, so knight e5 check puts the question to Black's king. White could obviously play more routinely here with bishop takes e6, but after f takes e6, Black should be able to cover all bases. The white square bishops are off the board, so Black's king is quite safe on d7, and it's relatively easy to cover e6, for instance with rook e8. So back to the game, and knight e5 check was answered by bishop takes e5. And it seems as though this is actually quite strong for Black. For instance, Black wins a pawn. D takes e5 is forced. Nabaty takes on c4, nabbing the light square bishop, takes on f6, g takes f6, and now knight c3. So for the time being, Black's a pawn up. But White obviously has very good attacking chances against the Black king, and there are opposite colour bishops on the board, which of course favours the attacker. It would be much easier for black if he were able to cover the e-file with a move like bishop d6. So Vallejo Pons is banking on a strong initiative here to actually compensate him for the missing pawn. Well, now I think black makes a mistake, and it's an obvious one to me. He plays c5. This seems like a very optimistic move in this position. Not only does it allow white to play knight e4, forking 2 pawns, but it also weakens black's king position. And after bishop f4, Vallejo Pons is zeroing in on the king. I mean, it's pretty clear that perhaps black was hoping to put his king on c6. I mean, if we just go back, let's assume white does play knight e4. Now black plays king c6, knight takes f6. Well, now after knight d7, something like this, bishop f4, king c6, black is actually quite safe, because white needs to play a move like rook d6 check in this position, and he's a tempo behind. So clearly that was black's intention. Now white doesn't do that. Rather than regain his pawn, he goes for the initiative, which is the right way to play in this position. And of course, after king c6 now, we get the last variation with important gain of time for white, as black is unable to stop the crunching rook d6 check. So bishop f4 is a very good move by Vallejo Pons, and black plays knight c6. Now rook ed1 check, and that is again a very unstereotyped move. Well, let's go back. I mean, most players, I think, in this position would have played rook ad1 check. Black was clearly intending to go knight d4. And whilst black still has difficulties in this position, we will soon see the point of Vallejo Pons' rook ed1 check. Well, black went king e6. Again, Nabaty plays his whole game in a very optimistic mode, and he gets severely punished for this optimism. If he played knight d4 though, b3, bishop a6 and then b4 undermines the knight on d4. And presumably white was intending to use the rook on a1 on either c1 or b1 in the ensuing play. So excellent rook placement by Vallejo Pons. But going back to the game, this move king e6, well, let's just see what a difference that makes. White goes b3, black plays bishop a6, in comes the rook to d6, black marching his king up the board extraordinarily, and now in comes white's knight. And suddenly, out of nowhere, white has a lot of threats, and the black king is in severe danger. Knight d4 was the next move by black, and white went rook takes f6. King e4. Well, already you are beginning to get the impression that this game could be out of the ordinary, and white's next move propels it to a new level, because I think black missed, obviously, when he embarked on this march up the board with his king. He clearly missed this move, f3 check, and that is a very, very strong move indeed. And it's based on the cute point that after king takes d5, rook d6 is a sudden checkmate. So black has to continue his march into the white camp, and now white gets to involve every single piece in the attack after rook d1 check. This is exactly what you want. The king marching to its doom. Up comes the king, rook d2 check, driving black's king extraordinarily to the back rank. Now comes knight c3 check. Black's king incredibly has to go into the corner. And now the finishing touch, a4. On move 25, white gets to play this incredible finish. And obviously black has now got to sacrifice a knight to prevent checkmate. But, well, he only postpones it after knight c2. White just takes it off. And then rook a2 mate cannot be prevented. And note, at the end of this game, black didn't use either of his rooks. I mean, if we're looking for a reason why he lost, well, first of all, we can pinpoint his optimism as a reason why he lost. But secondly, he did not use two of his major pieces. So, even if you're a grandmaster, you can't ignore the rules. That must be the major lesson of this game. But what an extraordinary and unusual game of chess. You would never have guessed what could happen at the end from the opening.